Representative Willard Munger from Duluth. Next to Representative Munger is Mr. Matt Banavets, former president of Reserve Mining Company. Next to Mr. Banavets is Senator Sam Sullivan. Next to Senator Sullivan is Senator Sam Sullivan from Duluth. Next to Senator Sullivan is Mary Murphy, Representative Mary Murphy from Hermantown. And next to Representative Murphy is Director of the Natural Resource Research Institute, Dr. Michael Lawledge. And next to Dr. Lawledge is our honored guest and speaker this afternoon, Governor Rudy Perpich. On my far right is Representative Jim Rice from Minneapolis, who played a very significant role in the establishment of the NRRI. Next to him is Representative Lynn Carlson of Crystal. Next to him is Representative David Battaglia of Two Harbors. And then another honored guest is, they're not all honored guests, they're from a little farther, the honored guests are from a little farther away. Representative James Overstar, U.S. Representative from the 8th District. And then next to Representative Overstar is our own Mayor, John Fido. At this time, it is my pleasure to call upon the Director of NRRI, Dr. Michael Lawledge. Dr. Lawledge came to us from the Foot Mineral Company. There he was Director of Research and Development and gained significant experience in the whole area of mineral research and mineral development. Prior to going to the Foot Mineral Company in Philadelphia, Dr. Lawledge received his PhD degree in metallurgical engineering from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and he, prior to that, received master's degrees and a master's degree and a bachelor's degree in metallurgical engineering from the Michigan Technological Institute in Houghton, Michigan. Since coming to Duluth and joining our staff, Dr. Lawledge has been heavily involved in planning the program of the Institute and in recruiting a staff for the Institute. And I can tell you, having had frequent contacts with Dr. Lawledge and with the staff, that he has gathered together a group of outstanding scientists and experts in the area of natural resources research. With the staff that we now have here at the Institute, there's no question in my mind but what we can achieve great things in the years ahead. I have said often in making presentations to the legislature that I would expect that this institute would be doing anywhere from $2 to $5 million worth of research within 3 to 5 years of being established. They're already at the $2+ million level. This is an annual level. And then I said that within 5 to 10 years, they ought to be doing somewhere between $5 and $10 million worth of research annually. And I don't think there's any question of what they're going to accomplish that. So at this time, it's a great pleasure for me to call upon Dr. Michael Lawledge, Director of the NRRI. Mike?
Governor Perpich, Representative Overstar, Chancellor Heller, friends of the Institute, good afternoon. The people of Minnesota have entrusted the Natural Resources Research Institute with an important mission, a mission to assist the state with the environmentally sound economic development of our natural resources with the expressed intent of promoting the creation of private sector jobs. While we have only been able to occupy our offices and begin to set up our laboratories during the past several months, the Institute has had a rather exciting agenda for the past couple of years, and I would like to take a couple of minutes to briefly update you on some of NRRI's activities and projects. The future success of the Institute will in large part depend on its professional staff. I can report to you that with a diligent effort over the past couple of years, NRRI has assembled an extremely competent development team of about 50 individuals operating in 4 areas: minerals, bioproducts, energy, supported by a natural resources library and business group. The Institute has been engaged in about 50 projects that one way or another are aimed at creating or saving jobs in the natural resource area. We are, for example, working very closely with the taconite industry in a number of ways. Early on, we conducted a study that showed that an overall across-the-board cost reduction of about 20% would be required to make taconite pellets competitive with imports. The study has helped to facilitate cooperative efforts by the taconite companies, labor, Minnesota Power, transportation companies, and state government in their ongoing efforts to reduce the cost and stabilize the industry. From a technical standpoint, we have started an initiative to assist the taconite industry in efforts to utilize an organic binder rather than clay in the production of taconite pellets. A successful effort could help the taconite industry lower pellet costs and open the door for location of a plant to produce the new binder on the Iron Range. We are even looking for uses for taconite tailings and have tested the use of this material in insulating building blocks with up to 10 times the insulating capability of conventional concrete blocks. If market studies confirm that it is possible to sell this block within a several hundred-mile radius, and a pilot demonstration proves successful, the Institute will encourage establishing a production facility for manufacture of these blocks. The prospect of the new Lake Superior Industries paper plant in Duluth is good news for northeastern Minnesota. NRRI is very pleased to have been cited for its role in performing the wood resource assessment as a part of the feasibility study for the plant. Minnesota has become a center for production of waferboard and oriented strand board. The NRRI believes additional wood composite products can be developed for the future and is planning a major research and development thrust in this area. The effort will examine possibilities for engineered structural parts and a variety of other products. One of our first projects has been to assist an entrepreneur in an endeavor to manufacture composite structural I-beams. Minnesota has about 25% of the nation's peat, but Canada has captured most of the market, and Minnesota's utilization of peat for horticultural purposes is relatively underdeveloped. With a growing national market for specialty horticultural mixes, the Institute believes there is excellent potential for new product development in this area. Tests on sludge peat mixes in cooperation with the Minnesota State Planning Agency and the Western Lake Superior Sanitary District in Duluth have yielded interesting preliminary results, and we are considering the expanded test programs. In the energy area, NRRI has participated in cooperative tests to evaluate wood residues as a substitute for natural gas in taconite operations. And we have been evaluating peat harvesting and combustion technologies at Rapid River companies in Baudette in an effort to develop a secondary fuel source for Boise Cascade in International Falls. At the request of the Minnesota State Planning Agency, we have begun to evaluate the possibility of a plant in northern Minnesota for recycling waste lubricating oils in a manner that will satisfy new EPA environmental standards. Most of the natural resources in northern Minnesota are linked to our water and wetlands. At this time, we do not have an adequate knowledge base to say how our lakes, streams, and wetlands should be managed to optimize their long-term use for recreation and industrial purposes related to mining, peat, and forest products. In an effort to ensure that environmental decisions are made on as sound a knowledge base as possible, the Institute has assembled a world-class group of scientists to understand the dynamics of wetlands, lakes, and streams of northern Minnesota. This effort is being funded largely with federal grants approaching $2 million. In these very few minutes, I have only been able to briefly mention some of the Institute's programs and projects. I trust that I have been able to pique your interest a bit. As you tour the building this afternoon, you will see that many of the projects that I have alluded to are covered to a greater extent in displays. Our scientists will be present and are eager to discuss their programs with you. I'm sure you will enjoy touring the building. In some areas, you'll have to use your imagination. We have some additional remodeling and a lot of equipment that must yet be set up to make our laboratories and pilot areas more functional. Thank you very much for your support and interest.
Thank you, Dr. College, for a very informative overview of the NRRI and its programs, and also for your optimistic preview of the potential for developing Minnesota's natural resources. As I have said many times before, I think we're just beginning to scratch the surface here, and when we start to realize some of the potential that's out there, I think you're all going to be surprised at what this is going to do, not just for northeastern Minnesota, but for the state of Minnesota as well, and for the nation. Now it's my privilege to call upon the Mayor of the City of Duluth, Mayor John Fido, who was a great help to us in the early days of establishing the NRRI. John worked very diligently in helping to get the legislation passed. I used to attend meetings with him here in Duluth in the morning, and sometimes then at an evening session of the legislature, we were both together again in St. Paul. And this was all over and above his responsibility to the city of Duluth. So we really appreciate what you did, John, in connection with NRRI. It's a real pleasure for me now to call upon the mayor.
Thank you. The opportunity to participate in this process today is one that I'm sure you're going to hear many adjectives applied to. The real bottom line is what we're doing today is Mike Lalich has described a few. There are many others that await us as possibilities and opportunities. I recently had a chance to visit Taiwan and to see in a comparative basis steel production done in a competitive, and I guess competitive maybe is the wrong term, the second largest producing steel facility in the world exists in Kaohsiung, which is a province in Taiwan. 9 million tons of finished steel every 24 hours. The processes that they're applying there are the processes we're just talking about here today. That plant was built in 1979. That gives you an idea of the competitiveness out there. With the efforts that are being developed and will be developed in the future here at NRRI, we will begin to be able to look again at a world marketplace. But not just in steel and not just in taconite ore production. We're talking about opportunities in many minerals that we have yet to even scratch the surface of. And research. We're in the same geological belt as Ontario and Thunder Bay. Mike pointed out very descriptively during his earlier speech today, many minerals, many applications of research being done on those minerals, only a mere 200 miles away. So the question becomes one of when do we get at it? The other thing that we can look to do is look to our neighbors. Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, the University of Wisconsin, Michigan Tech, the University of Minnesota. There is a partnership that awaits the opportunity of nothing more than joining hands. We are not an industry that's bordered by state lines. We are a regional industry. We are a regional people with regional problems and therefore regional solutions. Again, through NRRI, we become a partner with an opportunity to join hands with our neighbors to bring about solutions for all of us. I'd like to take an opportunity now to step back and say thank you to a tireless effort put forth by the delegation in northeastern Minnesota. Not enough can be said over and over again about the efforts these people put forth. You know, many times you hear about this boundary in northern or southern St. Louis County. It makes for good press, but beyond that, it doesn't exist, because every time we have a project, a problem, there's no boundary. There's only solutions. There's only a partnership to bring about those solutions. A tremendous effort by the delegation, and it goes on and on and on, and not just during the session. The solutions continue to come forward. The governor, through his leadership, has displayed over and over again the tenacity to keep coming at these problems that supposedly were insolvable. And those two partners, the governor, the delegation, are the reason why we're opening this door here today. Thank you, and congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, Mayor Fido, for your very positive and enthusiastic comments, and certainly for your continued support. All of you know, I'm sure, that our legislators from northeastern Minnesota played a major role in drafting and passing the legislation that resulted in the NRRI becoming a reality. Without their support, there is no way that this institute would be here today and that we would be here dedicating the facility. At this time, I would like to call upon each of the legislators here on the platform to make some remarks and speak briefly about the institute, and then we'll go on to our other speakers. I would like to start by asking Representative Mary Murphy, chairperson of the St. Louis County delegation, to speak first. Mary?
Thank you very much. Mayor Ruth, Mayor Loberg, and I are thrilled to death to welcome you to the Hermantown campus of the University of Minnesota. I say that somewhat in jest, but, you know, 10 years ago, Hermantown first became a city. And it was when I first got to the legislature. And it is a thrill to be able to represent the legislators from northeastern Minnesota at such an auspicious occasion. We don't always get along. We don't always agree, but we do work hard. And on the Natural Resources Institute, we worked our hardest. Collectively, the 16 legislators from northeastern Minnesota have a great deal of seniority and power within our various committees. And the legislative process is not efficient. It is cumbersome. And when you think about the legislative process and you talk about what went through Representative Rice's committee and Representative Carlson's committee, you have to think, too, that there were bills tucked in at least 13 different places that referred to the Natural Resources Institute. We were just covering ourselves in the various places. Since I was a much younger person, this building was a mystery. It was a mystery on its potential of what it would do for the protection of the United States. It's amazing to me that today we're dedicating this building, and one of the purposes this building has is to develop new ways of doing things. And one of the projects they have is to develop something with blueberries. It is on this very land that I, as a little girl, picked blueberries year after year. The potential for the future of this building and what the people in it is really the economic impact of all of northeastern Minnesota. The people that work here have the technology and the dreams for the newest processes. We know that in order to keep jobs in northeastern Minnesota, we have to be cost competitive and we have to manufacture things right here. The days of sending our natural resources afar are gone. We must keep them here, and we must work at keeping our people here, working on the products that are generated from the natural resources. The Northeastern Minnesota delegation have a commitment to work our hardest in the future for getting legislative money to finish the building, to getting legislative money to find out what is the inventory of our forest products, what minerals do we have here, and how much money would it cost to do something with them in an environmentally safe way. This Natural Resources Institute and the University of Minnesota is our hope, our dreams, and our economic future. We will do our best to continue our commitment to it.
Thank you, Representative Murphy, for your very informative, positive comments, and we also appreciate all the support that you've given the Institute and certainly the university and all of northeastern Minnesota and the state of Minnesota. It's a real pleasure for me now to call upon the Dean of the Minnesota House of Representatives for some remarks. In academic circles, we think of deans as seasoned, learned men and women who know how to work with people. Representative Willard Munger fits that description very well, and maybe from this point on, here's Willard over the end, we'll be addressing him not only as Representative Munger, but as Dean Munger. Willard has been one of our greatest supporters for the Institute. You all know of his interest in environmental matters, and at first we thought, well, there might be some conflict there, but I think Representative Munger realized that you can certainly develop natural resources and at the same time preserve the environment if you do it right. It's a real pleasure for me at this time to call upon Representative Willard Munger.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to have a part in providing this building. It seems to me the older you get, the more nice things you say about you. I'm very happy to have a part in providing legislative support for this project, because I think that one thing that's so important is the research. And as an environmentalist, I've come to the conclusion that you need research to prove to the people in the state that in order to have ecology and jobs that become compatible, you have to have research to make it so. And we have proved that. We have proved by establishing the Western Lake Sanitary District, if I might mention that, to prove that we can have fishing, swimming, and industry on the same river. And that we have done. I'm not going to spend much time in telling you what took place in the legislature to provide this, but there is one thing I would like to bring out, and as a member of the Education Division of the Appropriations Committee, I'd like to mention just 4 people who I worked with on that special committee that played a major part. I'd like to just point out that it wasn't for Governor Purpich, Lynn Carlson, and Battaglia and Jim Rice, I don't think we'd be here today. Lynn Carlson, as chairman of the Education Division, made the final decision as to whether or not the Appropriations Committee was going to approve of this project. And of course, I don't suppose that I would be quite as active in supporting this particular bill that provided for this particular building, because when Judge Gerald Haney called me up one day and says that we have to move into the Sage building in order to get this legislation passed, I said, well, what in the devil are we going to be doing up in the Sage building with this research project? And he says that's where it's got to go. And it's people like Governor Purpich and Gerald Haney and Lynn Carlson and Jim Rice working together that we got this building. And I'm very appreciative of the fact that I'll be able to be in one of your apartments. Thank you very much.
Representative Munger, thank you for your very fine comments and also for your continued support of the Institute and of many of the programs at the University of Minnesota Duluth. We're going to change the order of our programs a little bit. Congressman Oberstar has to catch up flying back to Washington, so I'm going to call on him next. I want you to know that Representative Oberstar, U.S. Senator David Durnberger, and U.S. Senator Rudy Boswich played key roles in the acquisition of the building in which the NRRI is housed. As you've already been told, the old Sage building required a lot of work to convert it into a modern research building, the one that we are dedicating today. Had the university not been able to get this building from the federal government, I don't know what we would have done, because there just isn't another building in this area that provides the kinds of space that is needed for natural resource research. Look at these high ceilings and the moving cranes and whatnot that we have in the building. I picked up the phone and called Jim and immediately got a response and got some action. So it was with a great deal of pleasure that I now call upon Representative Jim Oberstar to make some remarks. Jim?
Thank you very much, Dr. Heller. By his previous comment, you know that this will be brief. I do have a 3:15 flight to catch and only a few minutes to get there. I don't want to repeat what was said earlier, but I don't think it can be said too enthusiastically that we are at the threshold, at the dawn of a new and exciting time for northeastern Minnesota with the development of this Natural Resources Research Institute. It gives us a claim on the future. It gives us an opportunity to reconstitute the past and develop those resources wisely, stretch our declining assets, the iron ore, the other minerals that we know are here in northern Minnesota and have yet to be developed, to stretch them out longer and make them more useful for mankind, and to develop our renewable resources in the wisest, most effective way to serve the changing needs of an industrial economy. It was October 1982. Then candidate for governor, Rudy Purpich, and I went to Georgetown, South Carolina to look at Georgetown Steel Company, which was involved in direct reduction, promising technology, which had some, at that time, application for northern Minnesota, given the right economic climate. After we toured that facility, the research that went into it, the technology that was being applied, the most modern facility on the East Coast, competing with imported steel, we were both very much impressed. And on the way back, the governor said, You know, we really ought to have a research center up in northern Minnesota. The Bureau of Mines should have been there a long time ago. But we're going to create a new one. When I'm elected governor, we're going to put a faculty of the university in engineering and research up there in Duluth. We just got to find a place to put it. He delivered on his promise, on his vision, on his idea of what was in the best long-term interest of northeastern Minnesota. He had the enthusiastic help of the legislative delegation, from whom you've already heard and will hear more eloquently and effectively, in the work that they did in the legislature. And that's tough work, trying to squeeze something from your colleagues for one geographical area. But it was that driving force of our governor and his commitment to technology as a means of resolving the problems of our economy. But it wasn't, this isn't a new concept. I just want to quote, adequacy of mineral supplies is one of the critical problems facing the nation. By wise planning and determined action, we can meet our essential needs for military security, civilian welfare, and the continued economic growth of the United States. We cannot allow shortages of minerals to jeopardize our national security or become a bottleneck to our economic expansion. That was the charge that President Harry Truman gave to William S. Paley, that president of CBS, whom he had just appointed chairman of the Minerals Policy Research Study Commission. 2 years later, the Paley Commission completed its report, submitted its findings. They were startling, they were resounding. They charted a course for the future for the United States to develop a minerals policy. In 1977, in June, 16 years later, 26 years later, there was still no national minerals policy. Along with one of my colleagues from the western states, Jim Santini, who was born in northern Minnesota, we visited President Carter and urged upon him the necessity of establishing a national minerals policy and a commission that would again look at the nation's needs, at our critical resources, and our declining assets. The fact that there had been no new mines opened in the United States in a decade, that our current mines were declining in productivity, and that imports were rising in their dollar volume, as I cited at noon. President Carter seized on the idea, directed Frank Press, his science advisor, and Secretary of Interior Andrus to chair a commission. 3 years later, and $3 million afterward, another study and another report and another recommendation that we have a national minerals policy. And it's 8 years later, almost. And we still don't have a national minerals policy. So it is up to the private sector and to the universities of this country and to the governors of our states and to our state legislatures and to the people of this country to determine that we have to take our own future and our own security in our own hands and chart our course for America's future. And that is what this institute is going to do. It is the replacement for the absence of a national policy on minerals and development of natural resources. We cannot afford to do less. We shall do more as this institute faces problems and offers solutions to those problems here in northeastern Minnesota. We gather together on a very, very auspicious moment and a great opportunity for northeastern Minnesota as we prolong the life of the economy, make it attractive for young people to stay in northern Minnesota, and give all of us what we need most in this life, hope for the future. Thank you very much.
Congressman Oberstar, thank you so much for your informative, interesting observations and comments, and we do appreciate your continued support. We hope he catches his airplane. Next, I'd like to call on Representative James Rice from Minneapolis. Representative Rice was the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee at the time that legislation for NRRI was being considered. And I can tell you that that position is one of the most influential positions in the Minnesota legislature. And it was good to have a friend like Jim Rice in the chairmanship. And I can tell you that he worked tirelessly on our behalf. It's a real pleasure to have you with us today, Jim.
Thank you very much. And I think most of it has been said about the hard work and the planning that went in. And I accept your accolade for having helped to move the Institute forward. And I did it for all the good reasons that have been and will be announced here. I've been in politics in Minnesota for a long time, and when I look for a renewal of the spirit, I do come to northeastern Minnesota, and might perhaps be able to tell you your own political history in northeast Minnesota better than you yourselves could. The thing that I most admire is that you are visionaries. And you do have a basic understanding of what the political process should be and what life should be. And that is that each person should have the opportunity to realize full human potential, and that can only come about through education and by the diligent husbanding of your resources. Willard Munger, I'm glad that you mentioned Judge Haney, Judge Gerald Haney, because as much as was done by the academic community and by the political community, it was the efforts, vision, dedication of the private sector, of private citizens, such as Gerald Haney, Judge Gerald Haney. He's had a brilliant career in political matters in law and on the federal bench, but he still is a citizen of your community and understands that if there's to be any permanence to our lives, that we have to work for these goals as we went along. And finally, and in conclusion, two very brief stories. In 1983, I was with Governor Perpich in Stockholm, Sweden. We'd been on the road for 13 days, and we'd been working each of those 13 days from about 6 in the morning until midnight. And I thought I was going to get a day of rest. At about midnight, the governor called, said, Jim, he said, if you can meet me in the lobby tomorrow morning at 6:30, he says, we have a chance to go 150 miles north of here to see a direct reduction steel plant of SKF Steel. And we went. I was with him on the other side of the world when we were turned down for the World Trade Center, which would be an attempt by us to increase our exports and to provide more jobs and to provide more education, to provide more opportunity for people to realize their full potential. We weren't turned down, they just wanted to postpone us for a year. Most people would have settled for that. Next morning he was up early, we came back with a new proposal, and that afternoon they approved it. That's part of your Mineral Resources Institute too. That you have a governor who had the vision, as Congressman Oberstar said, to say we should have this in Minnesota. A governor who understands the need of all forms of education, but particularly that we have to give our people the skills, both in terms of research and in terms of engineering and in terms of academic education, so that a community can build itself and when it becomes necessary, rebuild itself. You need that combination of hard work and vision that Governor Perpich put into this project. Thank you for thanking me for my small part in this, and good luck with your institute. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Rice, for your comments and for taking time from your busy schedule to come up here to Hermantown to be with us. And I think that simply illustrates your support of this area and of this particular program. Next, I'd like to call on Representative Lynn Carlson of Crystal. Representative Carlson was chairman of the House Education Division at the time that NRRI was being considered for establishment. And he is still on that committee, and I worked very closely with him over the years, and I can tell you he's certainly a fine legislator to work with, very cooperative, very interested in all parts of the state, and he was extremely helpful in the establishment of the Natural Resource Research Institute. Representative Carlson.
Well, thank you. And we've had an opportunity to say several times here this afternoon that a lot of people played a major role in making sure that the event that we have here today takes place. And a good share of them are here before us. I think the thing that has to be remembered is that this was an example of a community in total pulling together. And the thing to remember is that there are a lot of competing demands for the state's resources. And when a community can come in, both the public and the private sector, when it's provided the leadership that Governor Perpich provided, they truly can lay out their case and accomplish a great deal. And that's what took place. There are a number of you, as I look out over the audience, that played a major role in this. And one thing that was extremely important is the competing demands came in. The Education Division members, and there were 9 of us, would ask questions. And when we would need information, the community responded very quickly. The educational community, the city, the people of northeastern Minnesota made sure that the answers were there, the information was provided so we could make a good decision. And I appreciated that, and I think that the credit goes to not only the people up front here, but the people, many of you in the audience as well. There are a couple of people that I think do need recognition on this, and it's been mentioned many times, but the governor and the governor's staff played just an absolutely amazing role in bringing this together. But one person that sits next to me on the Education Division that truly was instrumental, and his work here has been mentioned today. He is well known for his environmental work, but perhaps not quite as well known for making sure that the young people of the state of Minnesota have a good education, for making sure that we recognize the need for research. Representative Willard Munger, our most senior member of the Minnesota legislature, and one that I find is a good friend and a very valuable resource when I have questions and I'm working with the committee. And I would like to say on behalf of, I think, of the other members of that division, thank you to Willard and his hard work on this project and so many other projects as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Carlson, for your comments, and again, for taking time to be with us today. I know it's probably raining in Crystal, too. I came from that way yesterday, and it was pouring down, so at least you couldn't be out gardening or golfing or whatever. But we do appreciate you being here and for your continued support. Next, we're going to hear from Senator Sam Solon. Sam is chair of the Senate Commerce and Economic Development Committee. He is also a member of the powerful Senate Finance Committee. Several times in 1983, when it looked like the legislation, which included funding for the Natural Resource Research Institute, was about to go under, Senator Solon would scurry around the Senate, talking to his many, many friends in that body. And by the time he was through, he had the necessary votes to make sure that that next hurdle was crossed. And he did this many times. I remember in one particular hearing, we were all extremely nervous because we knew there were some opponents to establishment of the NRRI. And Sam was sitting over on the other side of the room, and he just kept nodding to us, saying, everything's okay. I don't know that he convinced us, but he was absolutely right. Everything was okay, and it was in large part due to his efforts. It's a real pleasure for me at this time to call upon Senator Sam Sullivan. Sam?
Thank you very much, Dr. Heller. I was very confident in those hearing moves because I knew that if I went back to Governor Perpich and said we didn't do it, I'd get killed. So we had to keep pushing very hard. Thank you all for coming here today. It's a beautiful day inside this building. It's a beautiful day in Duluth because of the excitement generated, the potential for the future of Duluth and northeastern Minnesota because of this facility that we are officially opening up today. I would again like to thank Judge Haney because several years ago when we toured this building, Governor Perpich had sent up his number 1 aide at the time, Tom Triplett. We toured this building. It had been closed for quite some time. There's no windows in the place. It was torn up. We were wading through a lot of debris, and we were scratching our heads when we left the building. And Judge Haney says, all we need is $6 million and we're in good shape. And so that was our job. And as been mentioned several times, not only did we ask our friends from the metro area, Jim Rice, Duluth native, Lynn Carlson, but our northeastern Minnesota delegation, as Mayor Fido mentioned, we were united in a cause that was important for the future of our part of the state. So with the help from the private sector, people like Regent Phil Fine, Jack DeLuca, Chuck Weston, Governor Staff Lonnie Kawamura, who is also here today, and many other people who I don't have the time to mention, we were able to go down there and were successful in getting the funds for the NRRI. But the key person who has repeatedly delivered and supported northeastern Minnesota because of his vision, of his love for this area, his roots right here, is Governor Rudy Perpich. Not only for this building, but take a look in Duluth, the convention center that we're going to build this summer, the Lake Superior Paper Industries plant that is going to be built soon, the UMD Engineering School, the UMD Fayette Rec Sports Facility. He was here recently to dedicate the vocational, the Daphne building on the waterfront, and he has promised us more. He has committed himself to the zoo in 1987. And Governor Perpich, thinks we're going to let him off easy, but we're going to be down there talking to you in 1987, 1988, 1989, and 1990. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Sullivan, for your comments and also for getting those commitments out of the governor. It's a real pleasure for me now to call upon our next speaker, Representative David Battaglia from Two Harbors. Representative Battaglia, who is Vice Chairman of the powerful House Appropriations Committee, was instrumental in making our dreams for NRRI come true. In addition to working closely with us on NRRI, he has also worked closely with us on a number of other projects and has been very supportive of the development, growth and development of UMD and the university. He is very, very much interested in education, and it gives me a real pleasure now to call upon Representative Battaglia. Dave?
Thank you, Dr. Heller. As I listen to this, you don't want to hear any more about this institution. Things ran through my mind. Mary Murphy's memories of picking blueberries. The mystery of this concrete building. My memories of picking blueberries is how long do we pick blueberries, Mom? Till the pail's full. A little governor's house for breakfast. And he came down, and I thought he'd say good morning. And he said, you know, Vitalia, you at Begich make so damn much noise, I can't believe it. What time did you get here? That was very early. I can remember in the process of this, talking of our good friends Jim Rice and Lind, when Jim Rice said to me, we are going to meet tomorrow morning again at 6 o'clock about the research center. I said, Jim, why 6 o'clock? He says, you know, I can remember when they made them tough on the range. Remember that? Sure. And Willard Munger, you cannot believe the way I fought with that man. And then he taught me all about the environment, and I taught him all about safe utilization of the resources. And you know what? He made me chairman of one of his committees. We're wonderful friends. He gives me breakfast now. Right, Willard? So listen, all of this happened because lots of people worked together, but very frankly, basically this thing happened because we have one tremendous governor. I say that for lots of reasons. His roots emanate from an area very close to where mine do. He's one of those guys with the kind of ethnic background of the wonderful woman I live with. Great people, considerate, thoughtful, loving, and caring. We have a real future here. We have a future as long as we provide for it ourselves. You know, getting people like these two gentlemen is a rare, rare treat. It isn't often that you get people to do these things so willingly. Usually it's a big trade-off. They didn't ask for anything. They want to help. So frankly, I come here, and if in some little tiny way I played a part, so be it. But truly, we must remember, if this is to realize its full potential, we all have to get out and play a part very shortly. It's imperative, if this is to reach its full potential, that we need a guy like our good governor at the helm. I want to thank you for letting me come up and visit. I've enjoyed this, and I'm sure we're going to have some tremendous successes. Let me just close by saying I have been in contact with the Iron Range legislators who are really very, very close to us, and they have had other commitments or they would have been here because they worked extremely diligently on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Battaglia, for your fresh and interesting remarks, and also I want to thank you for your support. We're very fortunate to have a governor in Minnesota who has a very strong commitment to the entire state and also has a great interest in economic development and natural resource development. Without his assistance, we would not be here today dedicating this facility. Governor Perpich worked tirelessly to get the NRRI established, and to this day he provides strong support whenever we have any serious problems, not just financial problems, but other problems. We know that we can always go to him and count on his support. It gives me a great pleasure now to call upon our great governor, Rudy Perpich.
Participate in this dedication, which celebrates a cornerstone of the economic development programs that we consider very, very important to this, not only this part of the state, the region, but also to the state of Minnesota. You know, we are the great state we are because of the many, really decades of dedication and support to people in Minnesota, in the support of education. And this is why I believe we do so much better than other states. And I was sitting here, I was thinking of all the people over the economy back on track and continue to prosper as we have in the past. Of course, our dream is to help individuals to realize their full potential through education. Our dream is to maximize the value of our other natural resources through technology and ideas. And this, of course, became possible through legislation introduced in 1983. And as Dave and Minnie said, the help of many people made this possible. And then again, I want to kind of tip my hat to our two legislators here from the metropolitan area, Jim Rice, who was chairman of the Appropriations Committee, and Lynn Carlson, who headed up the higher education. They helped us make this possible. And then in 1986, we had to have special friends who again helped and covered the basis for us. And in the bill, the Reinvest in Minnesota, where we will be investing $40 million a year for 15 years to take fragile and marginal lands out of production, which will help the farmer, put money in the pocket of the farmer because we'll have long-term leases. We'll also pay the farmer to put cover on that land, be it trees or grass or whatever. And this will also, there's monies there to help improve our wildlife and our fish habitat. But a provision in that bill that is be most helpful, not only to this region, but the state and the nation, is an appropriation to begin the planning and design of a wildlife research institute. And I am confident that that research institute will be in northeastern Minnesota. And that, too, will be very, very important for many reasons. Our dream also means preserving the unique Minnesota way of life through protection of our water, soil, forests, and minerals. In 1983, the Conservation Foundation in Washington, D.C., and this is a bipartisan group, they named us #1 in the environment, in our attitudes and our rules, our regulations, and our laws. They recognize us as being #1. And Willard Munger last week was recognized as being #1 environment in the state of Minnesota. And so that's a great honor to be a #1 environmentalist in a state that's considered nationwide to be #1 in environment. Congratulations, Willard. We're very, very proud of you in that honor. And Congressman Oberstar was here earlier. But let me make mention of this fact. As you are well aware, the Department of Energy is looking for a second repository where they want to place this high-level radioactive waste. Technically, they're not ready for it. I'm not going to go into all the reasons. But again, Minnesota is a water state and rich in water resources. This shouldn't be a site. But of those 20 sites, potential sites, 8 are in Minnesota. But Jim Oberstar, 1983, he moved ahead and he made contact with the Department of Energy. And as a result, there aren't any sites, projected sites, for this area. And we really, a vote of gratitude and thank you to Jim Oberstar for that effort. We're very fortunate that he's there, and he really worked in the best interest of the 8th District. And this institute is charged to reflect the stewardship. It is charged to develop our resources for economic health, and only in a sound and very sensitive manner. Education, technology development, and stewardship. These are important not only diversifying the economy of northeastern Minnesota, they are critical to the future of economic success of all of Minnesota, in fact, our entire nation. Nationwide, we've literally lost hundreds of thousands of jobs in textiles, steel making, shoe making, and other major industries. And we've lost them because of a policy that's opening up our borders to the cheapest commodities, and of course we're exporting hundreds of thousands of jobs. A trade policy that isn't fair by any stretch of the imaginations. We cannot compete in the textiles, people being paid 25 cents an hour. We can't compete in steel if they're going to be subsidized by many nations in the world. So the only way that we're going to stay ahead is through brain power. And that's why education is so important. And that's why this institute is so important. Because they're going to have breakthroughs. We're going to find ways to do it better, for less, and much smarter. And that's why this institute, as I say, is so very important to us. And why our support of education is very important. Because that's the only way we're going to stay ahead. And what has happened in Minnesota, and I don't know why it has happened, but it has. We have over the years poured millions of dollars at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities. And then the federal government, of course, came in with other hundreds of millions of dollars, as did the private sector. And then with that know-how, they spun off companies. And that created hundreds of jobs. And those people that headed up those companies because they came from that university environment, they too recognized the importance of research and put more money into that in research. As a result, the metropolitan area is now one of the most successful in the nation. We have created more new jobs in that Twin City area. The North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Wisconsin combined, twice as many jobs. It's because of that university and the spin-offs. But what happened is that we didn't put that money into applied research at the University of Minnesota Duluth or at our state university systems. And this is why this is important. This is going to become a regional center. This is where the know-how is going to happen, and the spin-offs will happen, and that'll create hundreds of jobs. Believe me, that's the reason that 128,000 new jobs in the 7-county metropolitan area in the last 5 years, while the rest of Minnesota was losing 20,000 jobs. And you see, this is the future for us. We can't compete if you're just going to talk about a commodity coming off an assembly line when they're paying their labor, let's say 25 to 50 cents an hour. A farm worker in Brazil gets the equivalent of 50 cents a day, U.S. How are you going to compete in those markets? You can't. So this is why this is so important, and this is why I'm so very, very happy to be here. This is the first dedication in my history, in my 26 years of the political process, that took 4 hours, but every minute of it was worth it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Perpich, for sharing with us just a few of your creative ideas. It's just great to have a governor who is imaginative and creative. I think far too often in the past, not only in this state, but in other states as well, we've had governors who have been more concerned about running the day-to-day business and not thinking about the future and the future of the young people of the state and a lot of things that just make living in the state a better place. We're also very pleased that you continue to be concerned about northeastern Minnesota as well as the rest of the state, and I can tell you that we're just very happy that you're our governor. The Northeastern Minnesota Development Association, better known as NEMDA, has prepared a bronze plaque to honor our state legislators and the dedication of the Natural Resources Research Institute. We have selected the unveiling of this plaque as our symbolic dedication of the building. Mr. Matthew Benovitz, former president of Reserve Mining Company, who also serves as a member of the NRRI Advisory Board, will now present the plaque to Governor Perpich. Mr. Benovitz.
Thank you, Dr. Heller. And Governor, I can take the hint and we won't take very long. It is my privilege as the first Vice President of NEMDA to present the Natural Resource Research Institute dedication plaque to our Governor. We can all take pride and a feeling of accomplishment in this institute that we're dedicating today. In these days, when there is more bad news than good news, it is heartening to look at the future with a positive attitude. And that's what the Research Institute is all about. The future for us, our area, the young people who are here, and those who have left and want to return. Through the research conducted at this center and the implementation of those results, I honestly look forward to the revitalization of our area. We owe a great deal of thanks to Governor Perpich and the legislators from northeastern Minnesota. And Governor, on behalf of all of us here and those who would like to be, I thank you. And if you, with your assistance, will unveil the plaque. For those of you who may not be able to read it, to the Governor Rudy Perpich and the 1983-84 Northeastern Minnesota legislators, in recognition of their vision and dedication in promoting economic security and the constructive use of natural resources through the establishment of the Natural July 1, 1983, presented by the Northeastern Minnesota Development Association on behalf of the people of the state of Minnesota.
Thank you, Matt and Governor Perpich. It's official now. We're open for business and ready to tackle the development of northeastern Minnesota's natural resources.